Our social justice program is informed by these abolitionist principles developed through the Black feminist tradition. We believe that social justice education has the potential to empower communities, resist and disrupt oppressive power structures, and work for solidarity. Our goal is for students to develop and deepen their understanding of who they are by supporting them in broadening their horizons, building passions, and finding their purpose. We began offering the social justice degree in 2018. This is a transferable degree program, transferable to CSUs and UCs. If you want to chat more about it, Dr. Ponce and I are always available if you have questions about the program. It is interdisciplinary, so we branch out into many diverse electives. We have community engagement at the core of our program. Our core course is Introduction to Social Justice, which is team taught and often offered in several different modalities by professors from sociology, political science, history, and journalism. And we've been building. Dr. Frank Ortega has been teaching at our local high schools. So we have dual enrollment with a lot of high schools. Professors James Wilson and Patrick Moore have gotten the Introduction to LGBTQ Studies ready to launch this fall. We have courses in economic justice, health justice, and disability justice as part of our program. So again, questions are welcome. You can double major in social justice. Special thanks to our brother from ECE, Professor Juan Vilcania Huerta, without whom these events would not be possible in a hybrid format, and for everything else that he does for our college and our students. And as always, many thanks to our DVC community for continuing to support our work. So without further ado, I now invite Dr. Albert Ponce to introduce our speaker.
Welcome, everyone. And as Dr. Neil was mentioning, we've been in 5 years, we've hosted this successful speaker series, which is amazing to bring this here. And we are branching out into our local high school. So we have Alhambra High School, the course that was mentioned taught by Dr. Frank Ortega. We have students taking in the knowledge from the communities that have been marginalized at the high school level. At Mount Diablo Unified School District, we're launching another 6 courses on their sites beginning in fall of this year and expanding into 5 more sections by spring of 25. So this is an exciting time, not only for social justice, for interdisciplinary work across transdisciplinary boundaries in ethnic studies. We'll also be hosting and working to co-host an ethnic studies summit here all day on April 19th with led by Dr. Danny Cornejo. But now, usually many times we go out, we bring in speakers, activists who from across the country. This is where we started this journey back in 2018 with our first speaker, who was Black philosopher Tommy Curry. And it's been a long journey, a very successful journey. And now I'm very honored to bring in one of our own experts here that you all have access to take classes with. And it's very exciting, and you know, it's awesome to have this at the community college, to be working with comrades here who are experts, who are doing groundbreaking research and are committed to social justice. So Dr. Carmen McNeil, who will be giving this great lecture today, has served in higher education, both student services and instruction, for over 25 years. As a tenured psychology professor, her favorite courses to teach are the psychology of women and the psychology of African Americans. Dr. Carmen has studied what she describes as, quote, the psychology of menstruation for the past 10 years. She has extensive experience working in programs supporting students who have historically been underrepresented in higher education, including the Puente Project, the Umoja Program, and residents of the Bay Area Rescue Mission. So the founder of Period of Empowerment, she is an experienced speaker for business, professional associations, educational institutions, and community-based organizations. And today, let's welcome her, because she's here to serve you, to serve us all. So So let's welcome Dr. Carmen McNeil.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I can't really thank the co-directors of the Social Justice Program enough for what you do already and for allowing us to talk about a topic that has been considered taboo. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Come on in, everybody. Come on in, take a seat. So again, my name is Carmen McNeil, and probably about 10 years ago, when I started teaching the psychology of women here, I started looking sort of critically, academically at the fact that the stigma of the menstrual cycle. I started really looking at that about 10 years ago, reading what was in the literature, whatever I could kind of get my hands on. And it made me wonder, well, you know, why is it that this bodily process that is required for the human species to continue is disrespected, right? That's what I was wondering, like, what? This needs some more props. Like, this is not okay. This is important for the human species to continue. So what's going on here? So that was about 10 years ago. Fast forward to last semester, I completed a sabbatical, and you will get a chance to see some of the fruits of that labor as a part of this lecture. And so in that sabbatical, I was looking at diverse experiences, perspectives of the menstrual cycle to try to see what can we do to try and dismantle the stigma. Because the stigma is indeed a social injustice, okay? And so we're gonna talk about how that sort of pans out today. So that's a little bit of background in terms of what we're gonna be getting at today. And so I want to first, let me make sure my clicker is working properly. So we're gonna go on a little journey together. We're gonna go on a little journey together during our time together today. And before we begin our journey together, I am wanting to use the powers invested in me to proclaim that we are all now family, okay? So whether you're in the room, there's folks on Zoom, so we got our roomers and our Zoomers. So we are all now family, okay? I have proclaimed it. So welcome, more family, come on in. So we got cousins in the space, we got brothers and sisters in the space. So we are all family, and I am proclaiming a family that has a culture of courageous conversation. This is our family, okay, that I have just said that we are, okay? So we are a family where things aren't considered taboo. We are a family that we can have conversations and there's no secrecy, right? There's no shame about it, because that secrecy and that shame, particularly as it relates to the menstrual cycle, but to other things as well, is what perpetuates the shame, is what perpetuates the injustice. So y'all are my family, right? Yeah. Oh, that was weak. Y'all my family, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, fam. Thank you, fam. So as we're moving on this journey together, I'm gonna be referring to you as my family now, okay? So part of some of the intentions and requests is that we have this space here and that we all work to make it a space for creative, connecting conversation. That's what we're here for. This is how we normalize the menstrual cycle and destigmatize it, okay? So as we go on this journey, I'm definitely gonna need your help, okay? Actually, everybody in the room needs everybody else's help. Part of destigmatizing, a part of social justice action, is taking on the perspectives of people that are different than yours, taking on the experiences of people different than you, hearing them out. So I'm going to be asking for your help today in terms of sharing your experiences. We're going to see some video clips, and I want to know what you think about it after you see it. I want to know how you feel about it. after you see it or see them, because there's more than one. I want to know what's rising in you when you see, okay, these the video clips and experiences that we're gonna talk about today. So are y'all willing to help me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not awake yet. Okay, I'll trust that you're willing to help me. So as a part of that help, what I want you to do in some cultures and some communities and some spaces, when you're together and somebody says something that you really feel, like you feel it in your gut, you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your spirit, they snap their fingers, okay? You don't have to say anything, but it's just an acknowledgement, right? So whenever, as we go on this journey together, whenever you are so moved, okay, whether it's something that's shocking to you, whether it's something that you really, really resonate with, whether it's something that's surprising, whether it's something that's difficult to hear, I just want you to snap your fingers, okay? Okay, I just want you to snap your fingers. We got that?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yep.
Let's practice. Let me hear some finger snaps. Okay. You got it. You know how to snap your fingers. Okay, don't forget now, because we all need that help, okay? We all need that help. The other thing that I want to do in terms of setting this space of courageous and connecting conversation is I want you to take care of yourself. Again, this is a topic that is considered taboo, which means it's not often talked about in public spaces, okay? I have found, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the sabbatical that I did, but I have found from talking to people of a variety of backgrounds that there's a lot of trauma embedded in the menstrual cycle. There's a lot of trauma embedded there, okay? There's a lot of shame embedded there. There's a lot of anxiety embedded there. There's a lot of fear embedded there, right? So whatever comes up for you, whether it was your own experience, whether you witnessed something else, maybe you participated and were the perpetrator in some of this stuff, just take care of yourself. Take a deep breath. There's some water over there. If you brought your own water, take a sip. You need to get up and walk around. Just take care of yourself, okay? Is that okay? All right. So now let's get ready for our journey, shall we? Say yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is our roadmap, okay? This is our journey. Now, this is the roadmap that I'm suggesting. You know, whenever you go on a journey, that was a combination of journey and odyssey. Whenever you go on a journey, and I was going to say, do you guys remember the Odyssey, right? That story, some of you do, okay? So whenever you go on a journey, there are twists and turns, there are things that come up that you may not have expected. So this is the suggested journey, and I'm open to flexibility. So in terms of our roadmap, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just make sure everyone has a basic understanding of what a social injustice is, okay? What social injustice is, right? So we're going to do that. And then we're going to take a look at how the social injustice manifests in real life experiences. So we're going to take a look at some real life experiences. We're going to highlight and uplift the voices of a particular population that's often left out of any types of discussions around this. And then finally, we'll end on a positive note and talk about ways that we can positively address this stigma. Okay, so this is the suggested roadmap. What you think about it?
That's good.
Yes, good. All right, nice. Okay, here we go. So let's take a look, and I know that's probably too small for some of you. So let's take a look at this definition of social injustice. This is where we need to begin so that everybody is on the same page, okay? Now, if you go and you Google social injustice, there'll be a lot of different, definitions out there. That's really what I did, okay? So let's take a look. I'm gonna read this definition, or a couple definitions, of social injustice, okay? Social injustice can take many forms. It permeates various aspects of our lives, from systemic discrimination in education and employment opportunities, to prejudice and bias in social interactions. So here's another definition. Understanding social injustice requires acknowledging the power dynamics and how privilege and disadvantage intersect. Recognizing that social injustices are not isolated incidents, but structural biases or structural issues deeply embedded in societal norms and institutions is critical. Okay, so these are just some basic definitions of a social or what social injustice is. Now, based upon these simple definitions, what are some examples of social injustice that you are aware of? Yes, tell me your name.
Irvin.
Irvin, yes.
The wage gap between men and women.
The wage gap, okay, between men and women. Thank you for starting us off. What else? Other social injustices. Tell me your name. Miranda.
The discrimination against transgender people.
Discrimination against transgender people. Yes. Other social injustices. Yes. Tell me your name.
Nadia,
Nadia.
discrimination in medical, how they view different body types or women or different ethnicities.
Yeah, some of that actually came up in the interviews that I did, how people who menstruate were feeling like their doctors were not hearing their issues. Thank you for that. Yes, tell me your name. Amora. Hi.
A social injustice I can think of is with people of color, like Black people in our community, just the social justice one.
What specifically? What, just Black people being there is a social injustice?
Police brutality.
There we go. Now we're hitting it, right? So police brutality. Yes. Tell me your name. Heather. Hi. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Disproportionate child death rates, okay, in terms of birthing. Yes. Any other social injustices that you're aware of? That's it? There's a whole lot of them. Yes.
I'm Naya.
Hi, Naya.
I would say one of them is like the fact that Black women are usually not given high positions.
Ah, yes. So in the work world,
Yeah.
right? In terms of advancing careers. Yes. Tell me your name. Laura.
Mental health, how they stigma people with mental health.
Yes, mental health is also stigmatized. So these are, yes, more. Yes, people don't take folks with mental disabilities seriously. Thank you so much. Yes, more. Now we're getting hot. I like it. Ah, yes. The fact that usually women or the mothers are offered parental leave. Yes. Yes, Heather. Yes. Yes. Yes, that's an access issue. Okay, that's an access. And Nadia.
I just want to say something on that, there were steps that state of California took a couple years ago.
Yes.
To make it a non-tax deduction.
Right, exactly. And tell me your name.
Or a non-tax item.
Evan.
Evelyn.
Evelyn, yes.
One that too is that still products are often toxic to women.
Oh my gosh.
Like some women's like lids.
So I had to take a deep breath on that because it's so true. Okay. So the very products, menstrual care products, period care products that are required, right, for people who menstruate, some of them, it's beginning to change, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say the majority of them that are out in the marketplace have carcinogens in them and other bad things. And these are used in an area of the body that is very absorbent. So whatever menstrual care products you're using, those toxins get absorbed into the body. So on the low end, they might create like an allergic reaction or something like that. But on the higher end of severity, right, losing limbs, developing cancer, That's an amazing irony to me. Again, an example of the social injustice. I love it. Thank you, family. Thank you. Oh, another one. No. Oh, okay. I was on a roll. Okay, so part of the social injustice when it comes to the stigma of the menstrual cycle, it manifests in shame. It manifests in embarrassment. And so I mentioned to you that I did this sabbatical, and as part of, there were 4 parts to the sabbatical, but as part of it, I interviewed, or I completed 20 interviews of a variety of people. So the ages of the folks ranged from 18 to 77, men and women, gay folks, straight folks, people of different ethnicities, people of different gender identities as well. And during one of the interviews, I was speaking with Deb, and she was talking about the shame that she experienced. Because one of the questions I would ask them is, you know, how did you learn about periods? How did you learn about the menstrual cycle? And her family told her nothing at all before she started her period. So when she started, you can just imagine the horror, the shock of going to the restroom and seeing blood in your underwear and not knowing why it's there. And that is not an isolated incident. So she talked about when she was, you know, a kid, however old she was, 13 or whatever, the shame surrounding it, okay, being shamed even by members of her own family. And so she described it as this scarlet letter of shame. And that's based off of a book that was published in the 1800s called The Scarlet Letter. And just a little bit of background on that book. So it's called The Scarlet Letter, and it's about this woman and her partner, although her partner did not have to go through what she went through, but she committed adultery. Okay, so she cheated with a person, another person. And so in her community, she had to go around when she was out about in public, she had to wear this A for adulterer, a red A on her clothing, like her outside, and she had to walk around like that. So she was identified as the adulterer, right? Now, the person she cheated with, nothing happened to him. So that's a double standard, which we also need to talk about in terms of an injustice, but that's for another talk, okay? So that's what inspired this title of The Scarlet Letter of Shame, okay? So I'm gonna play a portion of this video here, and it is about 3 minutes or so. And it's a group of teenagers, of young folks. They're in the UK, so you'll notice different pronunciations of stuff. But they're in the UK, and they're talking about the menstrual cycle. So what I want you to do, family, is I want you, after this 3 or so minutes is up, I want you to tell me what you notice, okay? So I'm gonna ask you, what did you notice? Right? And I just want you to tell me, what did you notice? What did you notice in terms of, you know, what was said? What did you notice in terms of nonverbal communication? I just want to know what stands out to you. And so I'll ask you, what did you notice? Okay. All right. So let's play this. And then I get to hear from you after this 3 minutes.
What is a period?
I don't think I've ever really met many boys who have understood it.
It's just like when there's this thing like sheds and it comes out.
If it's your first time, then it's like a nightmare.
Sometimes I cry for the reason, I don't know what it is, but I just cry.
The old egg, if it hasn't
Being fertilized.
Yeah, and then it like goes.
Some kids my age don't know what it is.
Do you think you can control it when you wee?
You've got 2 different holes down there. Oh my god, he just knows everything, doesn't he?
How often does a period happen?
I'm not sure, I don't know.
It just comes like once every month, doesn't it?
How much fluid do you think girls lose each period?
Well, it feels like that much.
Yeah.
It's not just like a waterfall, is it?
Wait, tell me when to stop then.
I don't know if it'll be more though.
Yeah, so just 3 cups.
That one, yeah.
What happens if you do a handstand during your period? Like, is it just like...
Wouldn't that look like shoot up like a volcano or something?
Mainly you feel really awkward. Just a bit uncomfortable and not really want to talk about it because then just end up laughing about it.
Boys don't know as well as girls, so I think they just make a bit of a joke out of it.
So I probably have been teased once or twice just by boys in passing. If you're grumpy or anything, they say, it's that time of the month.
I've seen people be teased and it just made her feel like really, really terrible for like the rest of the day, for the rest of the week.
You feel very alone. You don't talk about your period and it's like a club with your friends.
My friendship group, we call it Patricia. So it's like a little name so no one really knows what we're talking about. It's kind of obvious.
I feel like I've done something wrong to them to like make them not feel comfortable.
$1,000?
1,000, 2,000, 50,000.
You never know if someone's like they're fine where you're joking like outside, but you never know like what's happening like on the inside.
Making a joke is just a way for us to get, a little bit more comfortable.
So he says making a joke is a way for us to get a little more comfortable about the situation. So now you get to share from that 3 minutes and 15 seconds. What did you notice? What stood out to you? Yes.
That the boys only understood the basic fundamentals to an extent. Very few of them, they didn't actually understand what it is exactly.
She said the boys didn't, they may kind of had a little bit of basic understanding, but not really understanding what comes with it. Yes, tell me your name.
Mark.
Mark.
One of the things I noticed was the kid on the boy on the far right made like a pretty straightforward biological understanding of how it functioned, and it was treated as a joke that how smart he was. Now, the joke was pretty tame and whatnot, but I think it goes a long way. The joke was that he knows.
Yeah.
The joke was that it's reinforcing the fact, oh, he's the smart guy, like laugh because he seems to know some more.
Yes, thank you, Mark, for sharing that. And yes, tell me your name.
Nick.
Nick? Yeah.
Adding on to Mark's point, I think a part of why the joke is made that like he knows is that like because we're men, we're not women. That's something we can't deal with. We can't know. Like we can't be educated or we can't speak on the subject because it's not something we experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can speak on oppression even if you haven't been directly oppressed.
Great point, Nick. Yes. Before you share, so a part of the social injustice when it comes to the menstrual cycle is that people who menstruate are socialized to keep it a secret, especially from people who do not menstruate. So that means folks who don't menstruate often have no clue about what's going on. So thank you, Nick. Yes, tell me your name again. Amor. Mark?
Yeah. I wrote down that like jokes and like comedic statements, they stigmatize the like normality and like reality of like having a period, and then the fact that from that the process of like women and girls having to like the code name and like becoming secretive and like dismantling that to look kind of like not recognizing that it's a period and like it's a menstrual cycle. It's not a real thing that like we didn't ask for.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Don't lose your thought. I've heard other names like Shark Week. Thank you for the finger snaps. I heard some. I've heard it calling stuff like Shark Week, Aunt Flo, all kind of things out there. What else have you heard?
I used to call him George.
George.
Yeah, it was easier. George came to visit.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So yes, tell me your name. Asina.
I also think a lot of the girls' feelings weren't taken into account.
Mm.
Boys, making jokes about the period. I mean, I think one of them said that it's a way for them to become more comfortable.
Right.
But I think it's interesting that the way for them to become more comfortable is a direct route to women. Because, I mean, if you notice, they were all joking, but none of the girls were, first of all, if they were in the room, they weren't laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a sense of camaraderie between them, but it was kind of like a supportive thing. It wasn't any of them really making jokes.
Right. 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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
What I noticed, even though they were all sitting together like a group, the guys still stood out like they were individuals, and the girls were like still like there. Like you noticed like their body language.
Mm.
And then the girls were more like collaborating with each other, more like supporting one another.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Yes. Tell me your name. Andrea.
I noticed that within the females as within the girls as well, not a single one of them was proud. Not a single one of them said it's something that I enjoy or that is like a big part of my life. They all said that the first time was a nightmare and that it was like a kind of there was no love for it.
Right, right. And that is part of the stigma. That's part of how it manifests. Yes, tell me your name.
Mia.
Mia.
Yeah, I was just gonna hop on what everyone else was saying, that there's really no real logical explanation for why we have to be so secretive other than it's for men's comfortability. And so I just realized it's so ingrained. I do it to this day. I don't speak about it, like I don't mention it to like my brothers, like even they don't even shame me for it, but like I was taught by my mom and she was taught by her mom, like this is something that you keep to yourself.
Right.
And it's perpetuated by women, so we have a role
Absolutely.
to play in how it's so stigmatized.
Absolutely. And it perpetuates a cycle of ignorance, which then perpetuates the stigma even more. Yes, tell me your name. I'm Amina? Abina, yes.
I noticed how in the video towards the end, when the boys and girls were actually like men's girls at schools.
Yeah. Yes.
They actually showed concern. They also showed knowledge.
Yes. Yes, I love that. I love that. Was there? Yes, yes, sir. Tell me your name. Torian? Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yes. Another example. Yes. Mm. Ooh, that's heavy. That's moving me right now. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I just want to say I had a different experience only because of my family. My family's very open about our cycles, our menstrual cycles when they come, and so forth. But there was my brother, one that does not go here, who said, it's like told me lies about my cycle and so forth before it never arrived. So I was very fearful for it to come, whether I could have kids or not. I didn't get it. When I had it, I was actually like, oh yeah, I can have baby. But the happiest person was. But that was just my experience.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes.
I grew up in a family where my mom was not working was working as more often, and so I was raised by my dad.
Mm-hmm.
We called my period my monthly oil change.
because I had two younger brothers and we couldn't talk about it. And I noticed in the video there was a lot of you looking at the body language of the two groups. There was a lot of both being uncomfortable by both groups in the beginning, and shame in different parts of the video. You could really see that with both groups as they were talking about it, the girls as they were talking about their experiences, and the boys as they were talking about what they knew, and how they support their fellow female students.
Excellent. One more. Oh, two more, and then we'll move on. Yes.
So when you're a foster child, you don't fully talk to them. They don't talk to you. You just kind of help.
Right.
So I remember someone was trying to talk, and she thought, she laughed, but she said no. She's the one that told me. She's just a little bit older, so she was kind of like my mother who took care of me, because when you're in the foster care system, they really don't pay attention to you. Just a paycheck that comes in and clean up their house or take care of their kids.
Thank you for sharing that. One more. Yes. Tell me your name.
Yes,
Leo?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to say thank you because I noticed that you are saying people.
Yes.
You're not saying women.
You picked up on that.
And it's important to recognize. I don't know what it is over gender identity. I can see that they separated them into girls and boys, and but it's not only girls and women who menstruate, intersex people, transgender men, non-binary, two-spirit people. We also menstruate, and so even here at DVC, I see that in the women's bathroom there's pads, but not in the men's bathroom. So we continue to stigmatize and believe that or ignore gender non-conforming people.
Yes, one more.
Changing the way we call cat some kind of Google buzz, which I do that, and then she women kind of like they said we're not going to do that, that's not necessary. Like, and it's like it was like kind of like hurtful because it's like women saying that, it wasn't men.
Right, right.
Like, I don't even know what to say.
So there's a lot of emotion in it, right? There's a lot of emotion in it. Okay, I promise one or two more, but yes, let's go. Thank you for sharing that.
I just wanted to say, like, I also think the part of that too is because originally back when the terminology that refers to people who aren't gender conforming, such as non-binary, two-spirit, though those people have always existed, they're just very recently getting a platform. And I think the reason that I think now we're doing better with menstruation not being only a female issue,
right?
Both because, even people who don't identify as women or even people who don't menstruate should know about the cycle.
Yes.
I think part of the reason why
Thank you, thank you, thank you. One more, Mark.
Just go a little more severe. I genuinely think like say those kinds of things are in the minority, but they're very much
No, I got you.
They define their identity through that struggle. It's like, well, we got this struggle, we put in the effort, we did this and this. Like, who are these to come in and come in? And that's not a fair criticism, in my opinion.
Right.
But it definitely does a lot to create other marginalized groups.
Yes, well, and we've seen that happen historically with lots of different movements. With the women's movement, where there women of color were left out of that. So we've seen that, right? Unfortunately. So now I'm going to show. Oh, so now I'm going to show you some video clips from the interviews that I conducted. And so I think this one is going to be sort of 3 clips back to back talking about this shame. Okay, so again, I want you to just share afterward, just share what you notice. Okay.
Of the shame that I'm talking about is kind of built into the culture. It's you can watch TV, you can be around elders who are like, oh, we don't talk about that or make jokes about it or do whatever. It teaches you, oh, that's kind of forbidden territory, which makes it both excitingly, exotic as well as confusing, as opposed to just, wait, no, there's a bodily process. There's just a story here of the way a woman's body works when it's working the way it's supposed to work. And to me, that's the irony, right? Is that all of us live with a lot of the epigenetic awareness of like, what's a touchy subject? Who's supposed to talk about
elementary school or whatever, calling girls Bloody Mary and, she's, like really teasing girls, especially those that had an accident, so that's why I think it was such a big fear for all of us. Like, and that's why I thought it was just going to be this big explosion, of like blood everywhere.
And in regards to a lot of like school related things, it was very often like, try to open pad wrappers as quietly as you can because no one can know that you're on your period. And just kind of like a lot of shame and like stigma around having a period. So it was, it definitely became an inconvenience in ways that I didn't expect.
What'd you notice? Mark? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've been there, right? You're in the stall with other people who have the, most likely have the same assigned genitalia as you. Okay, notice how I frame that. And you don't even want them to know that you're on your period, right? Or it's like so, embarrassing again because of the embedded shame. And this is something that is experienced for people who menstruate for 30 years. Okay, it's a part of their life. Anything else that yes?
That I've heard a lot, and that was mentioned in the video is I had an accident, you had an accident. And I think that says so much. I used to have a partner who told me once that they had blood in their pants dirty with blood when they were menstruating, and it was a very long time ago. And I was like, oh my God, what did you do? And he's like, nothing. It's period blood. Period blood is the only type of blood that is natural and that does not come out of violence.
So we have a negative, in general, we have a negative association with blood, right? In general. So like when somebody's bleeding, we have an association with there's something's wrong, right? They got into a fight, they got eye bloody, they failed, they skinned their knee. We've seen all these war movies with blood and gore, the shooting up action movies with people getting shot and stabbed, right? So we have a very negative association with blood. Anything else that you notice from these? All right, so what I want you to do now, because we're all family, and we are a family where we have a culture of courageous conversations. This may require some movement, okay? But I want for you to have a conversation with a family member that you haven't met yet. I want you to have a conversation with someone that you don't know, pair up, and I want you to talk about how you learned about the menstrual cycle. Everyone has a period story. Everyone has been exposed to it, okay? Whether directly or indirectly, right? When I was doing these interviews, I interviewed a man, I think he's in his 60s, and he talked about how he was in elementary school. This was his explanation of how he was initially exposed to the menstrual cycle. He was like in the 5th grade or something like that. And there was a student who started their period and had an overflow. And so the overflow was visual, right? And so he saw the blood and he thought she had been shot. He was traumatized. He thought that she had been shot, right? So that was his introduction, okay? So everybody has a period story, all right? So you got to pair up with somebody that you don't know, move around, look around, make eye contact. Come on, family. Courageous conversation. I'm gonna give you about 8 minutes.
Right. So, yeah, I just want to like understand. I will say there have been times exactly.
One more minute.
Like, so we took a picture on the board, and I was like,
And my mom was like, "This is a Mother's Day gift, all right." But it was very hush hush outside of that. My mom was really working, so I was raised with my stepdad and my brother. And so, like, my young brother.
Okay, let me have your attention, please. Let me have your attention, please. Let me have your attention, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we got a process. You know, I teach in psychology, so we got a process. So what was it like speaking with someone that you don't know about the menstrual cycle? What was that like? Yes.
I noticed that, like, when you have a conversation, it feels difficult at first. There's a lot of vulnerability that goes into this type of conversation.
Yes.
I was slightly anxious.
Sure.
And I could kind of see that with the person I was talking with. But it was a great conversation.
Awesome. So initially some anxiety, difficult. Okay, excellent, excellent. Yes, tell me your name.
I'm Chimaka. I would love to add on to your experience because I feel like me, like, you know, my first time mentioning, I feel like I would never talk about that with anyone. Like, I feel like it was an experience that I was expected to, like, keep to myself, like, you know, for the rest of my life. I never thought that I would have to tell somebody else about that. But here I am doing it, and you know what? I think that once I talked about it, I like started feeling more comfortable. And then, okay, I can talk about this with like somebody else. That's not, you know, my schoolmate or something.
Yes.
It feels pretty liberating.
Liberating. Woo! Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes.
Luckily, my mom gave me to talk about it everything when I was 5. I was really young. So talking about things like weird to me. I always been like the kind of person that talks about it when I guys. Like, I'm uncomfortable. Like, I would take out my menstrual products and then be like, "Are you sure?" No. I don't fucking care. Like, this is normal. Like, why do you care so much? Like, so luckily, I didn't feel as nervous, and he's the person I talked about.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Myself, first of all, like my sister, family, we kind of like, look, because we're both females, so it wasn't, if I had to talk to maybe a male, would probably should be different. Because we both related when we first started, like, it was shocking and how did we go about telling it. So, yeah, first we talked about it, we felt comfortable because we're both girls, but how I talked to a man, I know I would have been all.
Excellent. Excellent. Was I seeing the question?
Yeah. Well,
I saw you. Come on, man.
I guess, at least for me personally, I think it's just realizing like how other people have really, like in my household, like even though I was closer to like my mom, but and she ended up giving us like the talks and stuff like that, but like someone like my dad, it was like you know, we don't talk about that. So I guess just through the conversation that I was having with my partner, yeah, it was just kind of like, wow, like I never realized like how deep
that had affected me for so many years
Right.
until someone else came around and it's like, hey, like, why is that a negative thing?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes. So that's why these conversations are important and are helpful, right? Was your hand up?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that you set the tone for how this was going to go. So I didn't feel fortunately, any type of awkwardness. And then like also I had already spoke and so did Nicholas. So I was just like, oh, okay, whatever.
So it's just getting over that initial hump, right? If we could just have the courage to just take that step, that first little step, then we can make some progress. Yes.
One of the things I found to be like really interesting is the different dynamics in different households. Like for my household, talking about sex, pregnancy, periods, anything regarding that was taboo. Like let's do let's not talk. So I never had an official talk with my mom or my dad, like anyone. So when I started my period but pretty early, like earlier than my friends did. I started my period at 9. So I didn't know like what a period was. Like how you talked about the story about the boy who thought the girl got shot. I thought I got shot, so I'm in the bathroom, start crying.
Right.
Like, what happened? Like, oh my God. And so I hid it from my mom, and for a year, and I hid it from her till 6th grade, and that's when she's like, "Why did you hide it from me?" And it's crazy because we didn't learn about sex ed in school until 7th grade, and I had started 2 years prior.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So much to unpack in what you just shared. One thing that I'll just note is that, so I interviewed a lesbian couple, married, they're raising 2 teenagers, a male teen and a female teen. And so when they were both growing up way before they knew each other, one of them in her household, it was her dad who educated her about the menstrual cycle, and in a very, very positive way. So everything was open, nothing was taboo. She thought everybody's household was like that, right? Until she met her now wife. Her wife grew up in a completely different household. So her wife, her mother, unfortunately, was involved with substance abuse, in and out of jail. So her mother was not present. And what she described is that a part of that lifestyle in her household was you don't air your dirty laundry outside of the house, right? Because you could get in trouble. Like you could bring the people to our house, right? You could bring CPS. We don't want any attention. She learned nothing about it before she started, and she started at school in the morning. I think she was like 9 years old also. And although as an adult now, I think she's in her 30s now, as an adult reflecting back, she's like, wow, there was, my teacher was, female, our principal was female, my counselor was female. There were people around there who could have helped me. But because I did not want to bring trouble to my family, I shared it with nobody, right? Even though she thought that she was dying. She thought that she was dying, okay? Which we can chuckle about it now. But when we think about a 9-year-old body and a 9-year-old brain who's had no training, who's had no preparation, that's traumatic, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
So it's gonna be traumatized whenever you think about it, because like that one kid thought he was shocked, and then like, you don't know, it's like a shock. How do I tell? How do I do what's going on? What's wrong with me? So it kind of stays with you, forever, because you think about that time.
Right. Yes. Tell me your name. Yeah.
Is it the responsibility of, and I'm just letting of the parents or the education system?
I'm snapping because I like the question. So I say both. Okay, I say both. We won't get a chance to experience it here, but I interviewed people who, when they started their period, were shamed by their family. They were shamed by their parents. Okay, you better not be out there fast. Now you can get pregnant. Don't be bringing no shame. Don't be bringing no babies in here. There was a woman that I interviewed. She grew up in France. She's been in the States for quite some time, in her 50s, but she grew up in France. And in her household, she thought her name was bitch and whore. And I'm not like exaggerating. Like that's what how her mother addressed her. That's how her grandmother addressed her, right? And I just say that to say that there are so many parents out there who are also carrying shame, who are sharing the shame with their children, right? And so the trauma of the shame just gets transmitted from one generation to the next. We're going to talk about schools in just a second as a part of the solution. So when you see that part, let me know if that answers your question. Yeah, Mark.
Two things. One of the things I noticed, kind of talking about this too now, is the conflation with like menstruation.
Yeah.
Like I've heard people. So I'm 30, 31, and segue directly to the second part. When I was going through sex ed, this was like in 5th grade. We didn't have like a dedicated sex ed teacher, and it was just my math teacher. Like, very uncomfortably explaining like, any questions. And one of the things that like, and he didn't want anyone to raise their hand. Like,
of course, right?
Like the fear of God,
right?
But there's like this really weird inflation, as you were putting, I think, with again, like menstruation woman, where it's like, I know people who say like, oh, she's a woman now, she got her period. And it's like, she's 10,
right?
She's 11, she's 12, around there. And I've heard this more than once, and it's not a cool thing to hear from people who are in positions of like power or parental authority or like community authority.
Sure, I love that. Don't lose your thoughts. I mean, on one hand, there are people who feel that the menstrual cycle is sacred, and that's cool, right? That's awesome to have that sort of positive, spin and perspective on it. And so, I think that those tend to be folks who are not like considering trans populations. And for example, one of the people I interviewed is cisgendered. She uses she, her pronouns, but she doesn't really like equate like the stuff with being a woman, right? It doesn't match for her. And so for her, in terms of her menstrual cycle, she no longer connects that to being a woman. She's like, this is just what my body does. This is what it does. So there's a lot to unpack in there. Two more, yes.
I was going to say it's so interesting that you brought that up because it came up in my group. And as much as we talk about how periods are negative, it was nerve-wracking for me, but I was also excited because me and my girls were like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a woman. Like that's how I went about it. And I thought that it was gonna be this transformative experience. And I remember being so angry when some of my best friends got it before me. I got it in the 7th grade on Christmas break. And so my best friend, I would always be this is kind of weird. I'd be in the stalls though when she'd be changing her pads and whatever. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I want to experience that. But yeah, it is weird to hear like a 9-year-old or 10-year-old call themselves women like that. We shouldn't do that. That's weird.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. There was another, yes.
Well, I left, but the person that said about just like the nuances of like finding out that you're gonna get a period, and like it does depend on like each family dynamic. But like for my family, I remember like them telling me like, oh, you're gonna get a period soon, you're gonna get it, and like they would tell me, and like that anticipating feeling of like, oh shit, like when am I gonna get it?
Yeah.
And then when it happened, I was like, oh fuck, like you know what I mean? I was like, okay, it's here. I was like, damn, like I felt defeated because of like people telling me and like all of my other friends like, oh, that's my period, and just like just those feelings. So yeah.
I just wanted to share from our online audience.
Oh, yes.
Alma Nunez says, my experience in 4th grade was traumatizing. My close friend was not feeling well during recess. And when she got up to go to the restroom, I saw lots of blood on her. I was unaware, so I thought she seriously is dying. She kept telling me she would be okay, but I ran to the teacher and banged on her door in fear of my friend. That day, we were sent home with a letter requesting parental authorization to view a movie on the topic.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Zoomers out there in Zoom land.
Movies from that era were really bad.
Awful. Absolutely awful. So we're going to transition now into uplifting the voices, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but uplifting the voices of trans men. So I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to interview three people who were, I learned a new term during these interviews, which I learned the term AFAB, which means assigned female at birth. I had never heard of that before. So there's also AMAB, or assigned male at birth. And so these are three people who were assigned female at birth, now living as men. And this is a population that is often left out of these conversations around the menstrual cycle, right? So again, I think this is three, I forgot how many I include. No more than three, two or three experiences of a couple trans folks. So again, I'll ask you, what did you notice? Okay. And I even want to take it a step further in terms of what feelings are coming up for you as you are hearing their experiences. Okay.
So growing up, I knew right off the bat I was never a girl. And then when I started to have my periods, and the female presenting people around me were very excited to get theirs, and I was just very disheartened and burdened by it. And I did not want this at all. And it made me very dysphoric and kind of wanting for me to, in a sense, tear out my own uterus because it was not mine. And I don't want this inconvenience of bleeding every month. That's not me. I'm not supposed to bleed, kind of deal.
There's one more.
I know that for a lot of other trans men, it can create a lot of dysphoria and it's just like a constant reminder that we have female bodies, and we're assigned female at birth. And for me, it's not quite like that, but it definitely changes my relationship to other AFAB people in my life, because especially those that identify as women, because there is this connection and there is this like community surrounding these shared experiences, and yet at the same time I'm not a part of them anymore. And so it's very weird sometimes to experience that disconnect. It's happened a few times even in my my psychology class that I'm taking at DVC, where the women in the class will talk about their experiences and I'll go, yes, I relate to that. And at the same time I'm like, but I don't want to be considered a woman. So I tend not to speak up with those kinds of things. So in general, for me, it's very much like a social dysphoria type of thing, whereas I know for other trans men, it is like a physical dysphoria.
All right, so we've heard two perspectives, in some ways similar and in some ways different. So what feelings came up for you? Thoughts that came up for you as you listened to their voices? Yes.
How alone they felt. They felt alone, like they were so by themselves. Like, you know, it just, I felt their so alone. So they're not knowing where do I belong?
Yes.
So yeah, like questioning yourself, feeling so isolated with the people.
Yes, feeling isolated and alone. Thank you. Others, what? Yes.
I was just gonna say that last experience by Tony, I thought that was really eye-opening, because I would have never thought about how that person might have felt, you know, not being able to relate to, you know, like how do you talk about that to both female presenting if you don't want to identify like that, but you also want to relate with those experiences and you're trying to set your own identity. So that's, that was eye-opening.
Yes, eye-opening for me too. You know, admittedly, this was definitely a blind spot for me, you know, before doing the sabbaticals project. And I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to, you know, to interview three trans men, and so grateful for their courage. You know, I did use alias names, so the names were in quotes. I used alias to to protect their confidentiality. But yeah, it was definitely eye-opening for me as well. Other feelings that came up. Other feelings? Yes.
Sad hearing the first speaker, especially, the thought of like hearing others have one response to this natural thing that happens, and then I don't know what pronoun the first person went by, but he went by he, thinking of how like it's this like constant reminder, like for those of us who, identify as women or born as women, like we have one kind of like stress about our periods, but then to have this thing that's like this constant reminder that, you're in this body that you don't feel like you belong in, so you have this extra stress and barrier that,
Yes, there's a third trans man that I interviewed. I didn't show you his clip, but he described the menstrual cycle as a betrayal. Like he felt like his body was betraying him. Yeah. Was there? Yeah.
I just felt sadness.
Mm-hmm.
I both in the movie and with what you just said. Like, sorry.
It's okay.
It feels shameful.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like even as a woman who goes through menstruation, someone experience that they feel outside of their body. And it's really hard.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for being authentic. Yes. Yes.
Something positive that I felt while I was listening to those men speak is a sense of relief. I was like, wow, what if every man just got to experience it once?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And wow, how important their perspectives are, because those people are a rainbow bridge, not to be rude, I'm not trying to like use the pop term for that, but they can be a bridge to understand each other.
Because they've been in both worlds. That's
Right,
what you're saying. Yeah.
Understand each other better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. So now it's time for us to move into, this is the last part on our journey. Can you believe it? This has been a fast journey, right? But what are some positive ways that we can engage in social action to help dismantle this stigma? So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts based upon your own experiences, observations, based upon what we've talked about, here today. What are some ways that we can positively address this, Nick?
Well, first, before addressing, just something to start understanding is not treating it as something not to talk about. We're not putting down the topic. If someone does bring it up, or if the topic comes up in a group you're with, it's not something that needs to be shut down, or it's not something that needs to be hushed. Treating it as something that happens to half of everyone in the world.
Yes, yes. 1.8 billion people globally menstruate. Yes.
I think it starts at home, breaking the cycle. They talked a lot about, a lot of people mentioned how they were brought up. And I was brought up in a house where, as I think a lot of people mentioned, we didn't talk about it, or got bare minimum facts. And I grew up with all sisters, and it was still not something that was just openly discussed. And so I really tried hard to make it something that there was no stigma. And I have 2 daughters.
Yay.
And I have an 11-year-old son.
Oh, great.
And so we tried really hard to just not have it a taboo topic. Because then they talked about the embarrassment in a stall. And I grew up where you used half a roll of toilet paper to hide whatever you were disposing of, or you flushed it. And I just shared a story from the other recently, how I clogged my then boyfriend's parents.
Oh, no!
Because it was embarrassing to dispose of a tampon.
Right.
And so we make sure that that is something comfortable. Almost to my one daughter doesn't cover it with anything. And we've had to have that conversation about, okay, maybe some would be good bathroom that a lot of people use. And I think it really goes back to just break that cycle.
Yeah.
And it starts at teaching it at home.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yes.
I believe, education that they should start like, when they're young, because it's a little bit easier when they're younger. And the teachers, like PTA, used to be president of PTA, but it's good for the parents to interact, because a lot of times the parents be sending them to daycare all day, but they need to work together as a team.
Right.
More education.
Absolutely. Mark.
I know we've been saying educational. I guess I'll just like solidify exactly what I want education. Comprehensive, nationwide, early level education.
Yes, fantastic. And
I feel like a big part of this is decentering men. And I feel like it's something that everyone needs to do the work on.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. One more.
I feel like one thing that could help is being more affirmative about periods. Like periods are good. Periods show that you're healthy, your body's doing what it's supposed to. And I feel like if there's more reformation of education,
I think teaching puberty to young people.
Yeah, like basically what she said. I think that's really gonna help because like young girls feel so alienated. Like a lot of us are sharing a mutual experience that we thought something was wrong with us, and there was nothing wrong. Everything was going as it was supposed to. And so if this is normalized and we're taught it at an early age, I think it can help a lot. And also, I think it also would transpire into sexual education as well, because men don't understand or really feel incentivized to understand women's bodies.
Yes, yes, absolutely. One more and then we got to move on. Yes.
I think too, one big problem, and maybe this is my generation, but there's supposed to do the I think too, it'd be nice to destigmatize the vagina.
Yes, who say that, sis?
If it did come from there.
Yes, it did.
It would be, because I think of growing up, like, one of the common ways that boys would insult girls would be like making comments like, "Ooh, it smells like tuna."
Right.
Like, and so I think addressing as well, like the vagina itself, so it's not this kind of like ew thing.
Right.
And sadly, hopefully younger people didn't grow up with it as bad as I did, but yeah, there was that mentality of shame about that body part.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the next clip I'm going to show you, this is Kathy Bennett, who is DVC's menstrual health counselor. And so she used to teach period education in the Oakland Unified School District. And so this is her take on positive education. And then the next person you're going to see, which is real short, is Helen. And she is also a period education instructor. Okay, so let me show you this really quick and then we'll wrap up.
Was very reparative and restorative for me. And it was like I was giving these folks an experience that was the opposite of what I had. And like in that curriculum, it's like it's the OUSD curriculum and it's the most progressive in the country. Like it's really cool. And like we don't even say boy and girl, we say like bodies with vulvas, bodies with penises. And everyone is in the same room. We don't ask people to pick a gender. And it's really, that was really restorative because it's so de-shaming. And, you know, the boys in the class wanted to talk about periods. You know, they like, and I would ask questions like, say you see someone and they got their period and it bled through their pants. What are some things we might say or not say to that person, you know, and the boys would be like, I would pull her aside and I'd say, excuse me, but I think you might have got your period. You probably need to go to the bathroom. You know, it was so.
Well, first of all, I think there should be inclusive, comprehensive sex ed starting as early as 4th grade when girls get their period. And so if you are getting your period in 4th grade and you don't have puberty class until 7th grade, which is the required California Healthy Youth Act, like mandated time that schools need to provide it, then there's a gigantic gap where there could just be complete miseducation, misinformation, ignorance, and therefore bullying that occurs between the ages of 9 to like 14. And so that's like the crucial period of time. And so that's kind of what I see as the missing gap, is that in places where I teach, you know, at an older age or a younger age, there really is, and So the age, so starting younger, but then also mixing the genders or having it inclusive so that boys or, you know, biological sex, you know, boys, basically everybody should be learning it all together. And so sometimes I often have parents talk about how they don't want, they want girls only classes or boys only classes so that people feel comfortable. But I actually think that it is really necessary for everyone to learn about periods, even, or just everything that happens to everybody in puberty. So there's just kind of a lack of consistency across the board that I see with education, where we're not, it's not taught, and so it's not normalized. And if it's not normalized, then of course there's going to be like secrecy and shame and negative feelings around it.
So I'm going to pause that there, and I'm going
They're
to
sort of being conditioned to think.
So we have 2 minutes left, and I just want to share some positives around this education piece. So Helen mentioned the California Youth Health Act, I believe is the name of it. And so Assemblymember Lori Wilson, she's a Democrat from Solano County. She also represents part of Contra Costa County and part of Sacramento County. So she is championing the push to include comprehensive menstrual education as a part of sex ed. Okay, so it already, well, who says, well, anyway, but this is what she's saying, that people need to have a complete physical, mental, and social well-being related to the menstrual cycle, and that the instruction and material should be appropriate for use with students or pupils of all races, genders, sexual orientations, and ethnic and cultural backgrounds, folks with disabilities, and English learners. So this is out there right now being advocated for. And then the other thing that I wanted to share, which we've been kind of talking about this, is the importance of having inclusive conversations when it comes to the menstrual cycle. And I just want to show you some information from this company called Period Aisle. So they sell period care products. They've named it Period Aisle on purpose because a lot of people, when they go to the store to the period aisle, they feel uncomfortable. So they've named this Period Aisle. And on their website, they have a teen little pamphlet that you can purchase hard copies, but you can download it for free. So this is just one of the pages of their entire youth pamphlet, you know, talking about the importance of being inclusive. And I just absolutely love it. They talk a little bit about gender dysphoria in there as well. Languaging, how to use the language. And I see it's 12:35 now, so I better shut up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks everybody for joining. This is a great presentation, very enlightening, and I hope we keep building from here. Let's give Dr. Carmen McNeil another round of applause. As you're walking out, I want to announce also our next social justice event, along with the arts program and the prison arts program at San Quentin. This will be on March 26th down in the Commons. We have a steamroller project titled Taking Liberties, the Horrors and Humanities of Incarceration. So as we're undoing injustice in here, we're also trying to undo the prison wall, literally and figuratively, and build a different world. So we'll see you then. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Really excellent.
So glad you
It was
came.
so
You
great.
set up a friendly face.